5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Sound effect for. That is one of the scariest fucking faces I think you've ever pulled.
What, this one?
Oh god, that's probably worse. You look like a super villain like that. Homer, hello.
Albert Steptoe strikes again.
Hi Lee, thank you for liking earlier, Dick.
Harold.
You look like you should have like one of those kind of diabolical kind of moustaches when you
Oh, what's his Dick Dastardly?
Yeah.
Yes. Hello, darlings. How the hell are you, everyone? So far at the moment, Homer and Lee. Hello. How are you? Lovely to have you with us. Oh. Right. So neither of us have had any sleep, so this is going to be more diabolical than usual.
That's our word for today, isn't it? Diabolical.
It is diabolical. We are the spirit of diabolical.
Diabolical actually means like kind of ultimate evil.
Yeah, because it's like diablos, isn't it? And
Yeah, from the Latin. Yeah.
Diablos in musica. Isn't that the that's Black Sabbath, isn't it? Bow down, down. That's yeah. Isn't that there's a name for that? Is that the? It's something to do with like Diablos in musica. It's something along those lines.
So that's a diminished.
Yeah, but the name of those, you guys, someone out there will know this. Those three notes, the down, down, down. Yeah, it's
a flat 5.
Yeah, but there's a name for it, kind of within the
ether
in the religious community.
Oh, I see.
Hello, Leanne. How you doing?
Hello.
You right, Bear?
Right.
So I'm going to press the sub button. Let's see, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, if you're on YouTube, so Leanne, me and Taylor both watching.
Hi, Taylor.
Hi, Taylor. He misses you.
Have you done any more skid pants? Not skid pants. I keep doing that.
You done any more skid pants?
No, it's drifting. Any more drifting? Yeah.
Drifting, baby.
Drifting.
Yes. Yes, if you are on YouTube or Facebook, just to see if any of this shit is still working, please like.
Well, Lee's already liked us. He was kind enough to like us earlier.
Yes.
So thank you for
Did
that.
we get a notification of that?
Yeah, I showed you.
Ah, yes. And it's showing in my little doohickey. There we go. There we go. So that's working. So anyone on YouTube wants to throw a like or something or anything our way or whatever it is YouTube allows you to do, please do. And if you're on Facebook, please like, follow, etc., etc., etc. Right. So if I ask, what have you been doing? We've both been doing stuff. We both did the same thing. Didn't we?
Yeah.
Yes. Me and Simon here, we went to see a spiritualist medium kind of person.
So it's so what do they call it? It was a spiritualist community.
A little spiritualist church, wasn't it? Kind of thing.
Yeah. It's really interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. I found a lot of it was more. I know we had a very, very intense discussion, didn't we, on the way back, sitting outside my house about it, as we always do. I found it to be there were some interesting things that they hit on, but for me, I was trying to work out kind of how I felt about it, and I thought that it's very difficult when there's kind of like a 50-50 guess that you could.
So first of all, if anyone knows what they were doing, so they have a clairvoyant or a spiritualist medium come in, and there was a little group of us, wasn't there?
Maybe about 7 of us, maybe?
No. I think there was slightly more. About 11 people. Excuse me. So yeah, really small group. So she goes, right, I'm getting a message from someone who's passed, and they're saying this to you, and so now I've been to loads of clairvoyants and spiritualists and tarot readers and all sorts of readings and all sorts of things, and no one's ever really been able to tell me anything accurate or tell me anything. She couldn't either, did she? But she did really well for every single other person there. Well, I say really well. She did quite well for the other people there. I felt that you went there going, oh, this is a load of old shit. So you weren't maybe as open as I would have hoped you to be. But that's just my personal take on it. But she did say some interesting things.
Yeah.
The things that interest me is, so there's going to be certain things. So, for instance, if you say to people, oh, you're someone who's a people pleaser and you always try very hard for people, but they never appreciate you, and
it's the self-help horoscope kind of stuff.
Yeah, but everyone will see that and kind of go, oh, yeah, that's me. But it doesn't mean that
even if you're a serial killer, you'll be like, yeah, I'm always trying to help people. I'm definitely being the best person I can be.
Maybe not a serial killer. That may be an example too far. But it's still, if people see themselves in that, or they see that in their situation, does that then make it completely spurious?
That's the thing. That's
the problem.
Yeah, that is the problem.
So the things that so for instance, if they say, "Oh, they're telling me you've got two eyes," and you go, "Oh, well, that applies to everybody," so it's a load of rubbish. But if for instance it is true that someone's sending a message from wherever the fuck it may be, and they go, "You've got two eyes," it's not wrong. So just because it applies to many people, that's a hard thing to give a weight to. But the more specific things, where it's things out of the blue, so for instance, the lady said she had a dog and it was black dog and everything. You think, well, how many colours of dogs are? But if she could have gone, oh well, you had a
ginger cat
or whatever, so that then starts to cut that down to, well, that's quite interesting.
And then she said to the same person, did you have two black dogs?
Yeah.
And they said yes.
Yeah.
So again, that's more interesting. That to me is something a bit more personal. While it's when they say something like they said to me,
and there were misses as well. There
were definitely misses. Like they said to me, is your father in spirit?
Yeah.
And I said yes. Now again, that one is a 50-50. So to me, it can be, is it genuinely she knew that, or could it be a lucky guess?
So looking at that though, you could have had both parents alive and kicking, and you could have had grandparents even that were alive and kicking. So that makes that interesting to me.
So you think that's a bit more personalised?
I think it's on the way to being personalised, and I think that's kind of where I think we're differing in this, because so I'm kind of, all right, well, that's interesting, whereas I think you
I did say it was interesting.
Yeah, I think you went more with the mindset that this is going to be rubbish, so I'm going to look at it a bit more negatively.
No, that's not.
That's how
not
it's just how I felt. So
no,
it doesn't mean
that's not how I judge. Because if I felt that, I wouldn't bother going. There's an interest in there where
I think you would have gone. I think you would have gone because you were. I think everyone goes to these kind of things because you want to be bowled over. You want them to go, oh, on the 4th day of the 5th month at 3:00, etc. But in my experience of going to these things, that's very rare.
But that's what I mean. So it's those rarities where it'd be interesting actually for you guys as well. If any of you have been to see like clairvoyants, mediums, and it's always kind of one of those things that when we look back at it, we maybe don't realise. Like there was a couple of women there who were really. The medium said at the start, I only want you to really answer with yes or no.
Or I can't take that.
Or I can't take that. But then a lot of these people were... No, not a lot of people, because there wasn't a lot of people.
There was only two people.
Two people who were volunteering a lot more information.
A lot of extra information. Yeah.
But it'd be really interesting if any of you guys have ever been to see clairvoyants or mediums, what they said. Did anything resonate with you? Did you get any hits? Because I've had people who've said that they were able to give like nicknames of deceased people.
So
and
things like that really, and that's what you were saying, like you want someone to be far more specific. But that's why I think it just comes under the category of interesting. Because,
hello, TL. Hello, darling.
So that's why I think it comes under the category of interesting as opposed to, oh, that's absolutely true, or whatever. Because you could say that there was a load of other ways you could have got to some of that stuff. So, for instance, we've said on here that you've had eye trouble, and she came and just said you're having trouble with your eyes.
And I asked you, didn't I? I said, have I been blinking more? Have I?
Yeah, I don't. And to me, I don't think kind of.
Yeah, sitting there,
I don't think there's any
looking at you and looking at the clairvoyant.
One eye pops out, bounce off your knee, and back in again.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any obvious things to that. And
no,
also,
so that was definitely more interesting.
And when she was saying a few more things about the eye thing as well, there was something that you had said to me previously that she kind of picked up on, and you didn't feel at the time that it was kind of.
So Homer said, I've been to a few, some misses, but one who was very spot on with names and changes on a certain date. Ah, that's very interesting. Yeah. So names especially. I mean, it's like, I suppose when you get into grandpa territory, there was a comedy sketch. Does the name George mean anything? No. Albert? No, and then they go through about like 20 different names. Ah, yeah, it's Arnold. That's it. Yeah, it's definitely Arnold, I'm getting.
So because you've used that as a reference point, but she didn't do that.
No, she didn't.
She didn't do that.
No, I was just saying when he said names and certain dates.
Yeah. And she was quite accurate with some of the things she said, and then there were the misses. And very often when people go to these things, they concentrate more on the hits than the misses. But I think, personally, from watching, and I was making a rough count in my head as it was going along, so she had absolutely nothing for me, but for everyone else,
she even got a little bit cheeky. As in, this was a bit naughty. I got to tell this one because you didn't quite pick up on it. You didn't.
I just saw it a different way.
So she was sort of coming.
Rebecca,
hello, Rebecca. So she was coming to Simon, and sort of she was, saying, "Does this mean anything to you?" And Simon's like, "No, I'm sorry, it doesn't." And you could see she was getting a little bit flustered because she was like, "Oh, I feel like I'm banging my head against a brick wall." And Simon, you could see Simon was like, "I'm really sorry." And she was like, "No, it's fine." And she was saying, "Right, I'm getting," and she did the, "I'm getting like the." Can you
again though? Right, so just there where you're going, and she's doing the, so you see it, and just by the way that you're expressing that. This is just how I see it. It doesn't mean I'm right or I'm wrong.
This is my life. So I lift my hand up. The reason.
Yeah. So when you go, and she's doing the, to me that's a gesture towards saying, and she's doing the well-known kind of.
No, it's only because
trope
of what she was about to do.
Right.
And it was. She said so. She gave Simon some information. Can you take that? And he's like, no, it doesn't. So it doesn't resonate with me. And she goes, right, yeah, they're saying you won't take that. And it was like, okay, shift the blame onto Simon then. Why don't you?
All right, so let's look at the possibility of that. If she was bogus, then it would be a case of it's not me, it's them. So I'm not at fault, right? So that would be the one possibility. If it's something genuine that wherever she's hearing messages or whatever the case is, but that would still be right.
No, so they're not in relevance to who you are, because you're very open-minded about this subject.
No. So, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
We do a lot of this.
I don't mean that whether I'm open-minded or not. That if say there is such a thing as life after death, which is that's why we went to this thing, because we're interested.
And Homer said an interesting one in a second, so we'll get to
that. That's why we went, because we thought it'd be an interesting experiment. So just say, for instance, then that she is getting a message from the ether, from something else, a past relative. So I only knew my immediate family, didn't know any other uncles, aunts, anybody else like that. So wouldn't it be, how else would they express that?
What, that you won't take that?
That I'm not going to know a single thing about any of my grandparents or any other family.
That's if that's what they meant by that. Or is it a case of you won't take this, as in you're too shut off? So like they're saying you won't take this. So again, that's got multiple meanings, and I think that's the dangerous territory of where you can then, because it's open to interpretation, you can make it your own rather than...
Oh, absolutely. But if you just take it on face value, either she's spurious and that's it's not me, it's not my fault, it must be everyone else's fault, or if she is getting a message, matter of factly, they're just going, he doesn't know us from fuck, so
Why are we even bothering here? We've all queued up for ages to try and get through to him.
100 million things about myself. He won't be able to identify me because he doesn't know me from Adam. So
again, possibly.
Yeah.
But so Homer said she told me I had 2 dads. I had a stepdad, and that one had a brother called Brian. See, now things like that are much more interesting. Because the chances are, again, you have to put it down to probability, don't you? So if I was to guess, like whether your parents were alive...
Uncle Carrington!
Hello, Uncle Carrington! But if I was to sort of look at someone and go, right, I can gauge their age at about the age of 50. Chances are, at around 50, maybe one of your parents are gone. So I've got a bit of a 50-50 chance if I say, is your mother or father in spirit? To get 2 dads, that's not a lot of people have 2 dads.
Yeah.
But also to get then a name of is it your
stepdad.
Your stepdad. Now, you could, if at the beginning, that's the point when he said your stepdad had a brother called Brian. Did he just say, does the name Brian mean anything to you, or did he say, was he talking about your dad's brother? And did he say his name's Brian? Because again, that's an interesting thing, because you can have, if someone throws out a name and then you attribute it, or they're talking about that individual and then they give the name of the individual. So that would be interesting, because again, the hit rate of being able to talk about a specific departed person and know their name, rather than just throwing out a name and hoping it hits in the...
So when we saw this lady, there were some things where she was specific, and there were some things that were wild misses. But on balance, there were more approximate hits than wild misses, I would when I was counting again.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. I need to go back to something that Leanne said as well. She recommended a book I need to make a note of that. Thank you for that.
We will we'll quickly go back to Leanne's, and then we will catch up on what everyone just said, because it's all... There's some Phoenix Nights references. Yeah. Clinton Baptiste, have you ever seen him?
No, I was trying to think which... I used to watch Phoenix Nights.
Yeah, he's a character. He's like a mock medium. He's really high-pitched, like, sort of, you're right, love, we're getting...
Oh, right, yes, I remember.
Yeah, big quiff, like... Yes. Yeah, he did he did like a couple of like sort of spoof TV things, although hilarious. Leah, someone recommended a book. The Living and the Dead.
All the Living and the Dead. I must try and remember that. Thank you, Leanne. Thank you.
So we've got TL. So Rebecca. Hang on. Pete said, I'm with Simon. It's all a bit Clinton Baptiste, Phoenix Nights. Rebecca said, I've always wanted to go to one. Would be interesting. More than welcome to come along.
I mean, that's Becca's down in Bristol, so
that might be a bit of an issue.
If you fancy a trip, though.
Yeah.
That's why we both went together, and we're going to go to a few more as well, just to because to me, so I've always been interested in people who've had near-death experiences. I've always been interested in theology and stuff like that, and I've read and studied quite a lot about it as well, extensively, since I was probably don't know, about mid-teens or so.
In your past life. That's how long you've been reading it.
At one point, I was really close to going for like regressions, just to see what it was about and stuff. But the problem with that, again, I read up extensively about it. Yeah, under hypnosis.
So
but
it
so depends. And also, I did a lot of an ex-girlfriend. We both going to go on a course for hypnotherapy, and then we split up, and she went on her own. But the problem is if you have a bad practitioner, it can plant. It can plant seeds a memory that doesn't, but it will feel like it's a real memory, and
that's very dangerous.
That really bothers me.
Sounds a bit Russian for my liking.
A long time ago, for a college project, my group tested 10 fortune tellers that made money doing it.
That same as it was at the James Randi challenge, wasn't it?
Needless to say, they all failed. So yeah, exactly, yeah.
And it's always interesting with James Randi with the.
But it's interesting. You said fortune tellers. What do you mean by fortune tellers?
Yeah, let us know.
Because
that's a bit different, isn't it?
Yeah, it depends how you term or what exactly you're meaning by that. TL be interesting.
Because I think we've talked about this before when we did our paranormal one, the Randy $1 Million Challenge.
Yeah,
where they would put different clairvoyants and psychics and various people in basically like a clinical setting, wasn't it? In a test situation. And they would all agree and they say, yep, this is all fine, absolutely. We completely agree to the specifications of the test. And then when they failed, they were like, oh, well, this wasn't fair. There was always excuses. So that's kind of, again, is interesting. It's like, well, if you didn't feel the test, what's the word I'm looking for? The rules, the
cogent,
the test rules. You know,
the framework of
the framework was unfair. Why did you agree to it? But there's always an excuse at the end.
But so, as a caveat to that, a lot of them were happy with it because it was doing the kind of tests of. He did like the ESP, the standardized kind of ESP tests and stuff like that, and then he also did people where he had them doing a sitting, and then would ask them questions and stuff like that, and then they would say that because he wanted it done with full lighting so they could see everything and stuff like that, and they were saying, well, we need duller lighting and stuff like that. But also the sampling of the people that he had was interesting because it was people approaching him and not him approaching people.
Oh, okay.
And so that's interesting because that could be that it's people seeing that there's money to be made, that they wanted to do it, or it may not be. No, so confirmation bias plays a huge part. So that's
interesting because
right. So
clairvoyance on your point, Uncle Peter, because that may be kind of part of what we're going to talk about in our chat section.
So Uncle Pete, I want to ask you. So that's interesting. Confirmation bias plays a huge part in it. So if someone says, so for instance, this night there was a lady there, her sister had passed, and that was, she said, I'm getting someone through, I'm getting a sister energy. I think that's what she said. Am I right or wrong?
Something along those lines.
And then she was giving various information about her character and stuff. So that kind of stuff, you go, all right, well, it could be just how people see things, blah, 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 whatever the case is. She was this type of person, you know, she didn't suffer fools gladly, and, you know, if she didn't like someone, she'd be sure to tell them to their face. And the lady was going, oh, yeah, that's right, and everything. And she said, I'm seeing a black dog. She had a black dog. And she went, yeah, she did. She said, but I'm seeing two black dogs. She said, well, she didn't have. Her first thing was she didn't have two black dogs, but she said, no, I'm seeing two black dogs. And then she went, oh well, she had one black dog. It passed away, and then she had another black dog after that. She said, well, that's what I'm saying. I see two black dogs. Now at that point, she could have said, she could have withdrawn that, but she didn't. She continued, and that to me is interesting because there's a couple of things there. So confirmation bias, and we don't know the lady. Maybe it was all spurious. Maybe she was a setup. But I mean, that means we were the only two people in the audience that weren't the setup. And what do we pay? You pay £5 to go in, so it's not exactly anyone's making a fucking millionaire fortune on it. So I'm going to take it that she was a genuine person, and what she was saying, she was confirming, was genuine.
So confirmation bias is that where you are given information and you cherry pick the parts of the information that suit your personal agenda, I suppose.
Yeah. So
if I go to you and I said, right, Simon, apparently that there's 99.9% evidence to show that you are an incredibly sexy man, and this data has been coordinated, and I need to say coagulated. That's not the right word. By very reputable people, but there is 1% that says you're an absolute munty. and you'd be like, yep, that's the one I'm sticking with.
Told you.
Yeah.
I think maybe a slightly better kind of analogy of
Is
that.
anything other than what I just said.
Wasn't the greatest analogy, but still nice effort. Is probably so people of a certain political persuasion will read the paper that's in line with what they already believe.
Yeah.
So going back to confirmation bias, how would you see that? Because I think, and I might be wrong, I don't want to put words into your mouth, Uncle Pete, but it would be that if people already believe that there's someone on the other side, and this is in a very broad perspective, confirmation bias would be like, oh, she said someone came through and they're looking after me, so because I already believe that, I don't put any other checks in there. I just accept that because it's in line with what I already believe. Whereas what we were kind of witnessing was a bit different to that.
There were some who were more. We got what I call the hijackers, and we have this where they'll go to one person and then they'll go, "Oh, that sounds like me." And then you can see that those people are so much more open to
Again, it was only those two people. So
the ones who were willing to feed a lot more information back. So obviously they were the ones.
But again, I think part of that is because people feel like, I don't want you to make a fool of yourself. So they go, oh, well, I think that applies to me. I might be wrong in saying that.
Yeah, I think by the amount that they were giving back and the amount that they would, I think certain people were craving to be. There's part
chosen.
of it is craving to be chosen, and it's but that sounds exactly like me. So I think that there's your confirmation bias, isn't it? It's I'm willing to just accept this thing.
No, so no? I would say that's a bit different to confirmation bias. I might be wrong in saying this, but I think that's a bit different. That's someone going, well, I know someone with this, I know someone with that, I know someone with that. This person saying, so for instance, she came to me and said various things. And I was going, doesn't mean fuck all to me. And then the lady in front said, and she was sitting directly in front of me, I think that might apply to me because it was some tall bloke, you're having dreams about people coming to you in spirit, like family members coming to you in your dreams and stuff. And she said, yeah, I've been having very vivid dreams about my various members of my family or whatever coming to her.
But is that not confirmation bias because she's listened to these certain elements, thinks, right, that ticks my boxes, but then the other stuff that was being talked about.
So it wouldn't be confirmation bias because it's not that if she said she was how do I say this?
Fuck you, Mike.
No, not at all. I don't. That's what I'm saying. I may well be wrong, but I don't see it as confirmation bias because she was going, those things apply to me as opposed to I have a belief and what you're saying fits in with my belief.
Okay.
All our problems are caused by immigrants.
All right, calm down. We've all had a few.
No, so like when we were looking at that bloke, when there were all the...
Hang on, sorry, Farage is on the phone. He wants to speak to you.
When there were the riots during the tail end of the summer last year, and they were having those chats on LBC and stuff like that. That was a prime example of confirmation bias. Yeah. It's all the immigrants that are causing the problems, and all my mates agree with me, so therefore we must be right. Ergo, we hold the right opinion.
Yeah.
Whereas what she was saying doesn't fit to that. What she was saying was, this bloke can't take it because it means nothing to him. I have those various things, and that means something to me.
Okay.
So that's why I would suggest.
Yeah.
I would suggest. I don't think it's.
So Homer said. Sorry, we'll get back to what Homer said now. Yeah. No, she was very direct. Said you have two dads and one has a brother called Brian. See, now that to me is much more specific. Whereas if she hadn't mentioned anything about your brother or your dad and just said, does the name Brian mean anything to you? Again, that could be, you could have known a Brian when you were a kid. You could have known a Brian. Anywhere in life who might not be here, but again, when you already set up those extra parameters, the realms of probability are drastically
reduced down. Tio, I'd really like to know what you meant by fortune tellers. So, how were you compiling your your sample group. What exactly was it that you were looking for when you were saying you tested 10 fortune tellers? I'd be really interested in that.
And while you type that out, we're going to play a tune, because we've rambled for nearly half an hour.
It was interesting though, right?
It was, yes. I enjoyed it.
Wait a minute.
You just soloed the click.
So, nothing else other than that. Right, let's start again.
Those drums are horrible. You stir my natural emotion. You make me feel undone and unheard. And if I start a commotion, I'll only end up losing you, and that's worse. Ever fall in love with someone? Ever fallen in love with someone? Ever fallen in love with someone you should have fallen in love with? Can't see much of the future unless we realize what to blame. It's a shame. And we won't be together much longer unless we realize that we are the same. Ever fall in love with someone? Ever fallen in love with someone? Ever fallen in love with someone you should have fallen in love with? Stir my natural emotions. You make me feel undone and unheard. And if I start a commotion, I'll only end up losing you, and that's worse. Ever fallen in love with someone? Ever fallen in love with someone? Ever fallen in love with someone you should have fallen in love with? Ever fallen in love with someone? Ever fallen in love with someone? Ever fallen in love with someone you should have fallen in love with? I'm going to turn the smoke machine on. Ever fallen in love with? Ever fallen in love with someone should have fallen in love with? Hello, Mark. Hello, Sonia. Hey, guys. Yes to that song. Rob! Interesting fact about our Mr. Rob McFreddy's there.
Hello.
I was walking through the work car park.
Yep.
A car pulled up next to me. The window wound down. It was Rob. He has been working 3 or 4 units down from me since November, and I didn't even know.
Oh, God, how funny is that?
So, just most hilarious.
Actually, funny you should say about the meaning of life. Oh, dear. Yeah, just to catch up, Mike and I, we went to...
a spiritualist church.
Yeah, well, it wasn't. See, they call it a spiritualist community centre, don't they? But anyway, so what they do is they get like a guest clairvoyant to come in, and she says, I'm getting a message from blah, 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 whatever else. And it was interesting. It was very interesting.
It was. If you'd like to catch up on our half-hour rambling of that subject, then you can rewatch this and hear everything that went on.
What's interesting, and I know this will apply to a few people who are watching, So I've always been interested in theology. I've studied it a lot. I've been interested in near-death experiences. Again, read up, studied a lot, read loads of studies about it and stuff. The biggest question to me in life is, what the fuck are we doing here? Where are we from? What is it all about? And I know it's too massive a question to really know anything about what it's about.
I think, to be honest, if we want to kind of find the answer to that, we have to turn to the lyrics and words of Kiss. and the Holy Book of Kiss, and the words, everybody has a reason to live, everybody has a dream, and a hunger inside. Everybody has a reason to live, but it can't be your love. Which I completely disagree with. I think it can be your love, and your love is bloody well worth it. I'll tell you that much.
Go kill yourself. Right, so... yeah, but that thing, and again, so if you're religious, you will believe in some sort of deity or you'll believe in some form of deity or some form of presence that's over all of us. Is there any bigger question? Because and also some people are going to be agnostic, or they're going to be they might believe there's something but they don't know what it is, or they may believe there's absolutely nothing, we're just here and then we're gone. And that is to me, that's such a, Rob's saying, wearing a fleecy onesie with that beard. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It must be like...
Basically this.
like Velcro. Is there any bigger question? I don't think there is.
No, I don't think there is.
So all these little things, that's why I go to these types of things and find out, speak to as many people as I can and find out what I can, because I think, really, what can be any bigger or more important than that?
I think that it's for me, like spiritualism and what lies beyond, to me is almost similar as why I want to learn to scuba dive. Because down in the water, there is a whole world that I know really nothing about that's incredibly beautiful, and it's like a whole disconnect from what I already...
Well, there's good and bad.
Yeah, there is. There's
we
shit that'll eat you.
We kind of always go, oh, well, it's all gorgeous and it's wonderful and it's beautiful, but there's also, I mean, really...
Condoms floating past you. And
that wasn't where I was going to go, but...
where I was.
Flora and fauna is actually brutal with itself. Yeah. Oh, cool. That's a good track.
Yeah? Should we go for this? Yeah. But yeah, to me, it holds a greater interest. And again, it's just so many unanswered questions.
Yeah, so I'm always really interested if anyone has anything to say about that, because, what is more important than that?
Yeah, and we will be going again, so we will have...
But everyone's going to have different important things. For me, that question of,
what's it all about? Healthy.
If we're the only people, if we're the only sentient beings in the galaxy, that would be bizarre.
And also depressing, because some of the ones we've seen at gigs and at the outside of gigs is that sentience, then we are fucked.
Yeah, but also as well that, so again, if you're aware of the Drake equation, it would seem like that there should be at the very least 50 million other sentient civilizations from the amount, and that's just from the amount of planets that we know about, and then taking that down to what's in the Goldilocks system, what has its own solar system star, what has its a possibility of water, of certain gases and stuff like that. So that's an amazing amount. But then again, and also depending on people's beliefs, how long the cheers, Mark. Thank you. For that.
Thank you, Mark. Facebook's working.
Yeah.
Rob, can you try liking or doing anything with the stream? I want to see if YouTube is working as well. Be most appreciative if you would.
I'm probably babbling on too much.
No, you're not at all.
So yeah, the idea that if there was some sort of superior being over us, and I know people who have religious beliefs will think. Will have very, very strong and definite ideas about that. And other people that are atheist or agnostic, they're going to have very equally strong opinions to the contrary. But the truth of it is nobody knows for definite. So we're all just, it's a bit of a crapshoot with that. At least that's how I see it. But with things like near-death experiences, the idea of clairvoyance and stuff.
Thank you, Rob.
That's probably, and that's why I was interested in what TL's experiment was, because that's probably the closest you can get to. And again, so in the 60s, people were talking about quantum physics and quantum theory, and people were going, don't be stupid, that's just utter nonsense. You can have two particles that are entangled, yet they're completely in separate spaces, and they still have a relation to this complete horseshit. And yet now we know that as a fact, and it was just because the science wasn't there that, when I was talking to that neuroscientist the other day as well, exactly that the science isn't at a stage where these things can be checked or tested or whatever to a significant. So Uncle Pete says, check out a book called Risk by Dan Gardner. What's it about, Uncle Pete?
Tell us, Uncle Peter.
Yeah, Risk.
But there's someone was saying about the idea, for example, if you could only see in 2 dimensions, the concept of a third dimension would be so abstract that you're not capable of understanding.
Well, light. So we see between, I think is it something like 300 to 700 nanometers or something like that. I can't remember. So we don't see, we think we see everything light-wise, but what animals see, because they have, so many animals have a lot broader range of light perception, they can understand things that we just have no understanding of. And this is a fairly relatively new science that's been found out about the difference in light. So again, it's very easy to go, oh, this is all horseshit, because being destructive is so much easier than being creative, than building. It's a lot harder to build.
Rome wasn't built in a day, but it could be destroyed in one.
Yeah,
Remember
exactly.
that.
Yeah. So
just like your bum hole.
That thing, like about light, that animals can see. So, for instance, they'll be able to see your heat color. They'll be able to see how your cells are receiving UV light and stuff like that. Whereas we have no understanding of that.
That's why the Predator in the film Predator just kicked everyone else's asses. He just had all the skills.
Yep. It's about how our minds comprehend things and how the media shape
our opinions. Ooh, okay, that sounds interesting. May give that a little nosy. Right, we're going to try this one. We learnt this ages ago when Ziggy was on the stream.
Yeah.
And
right,
I haven't played it for, but yeah, it's an amazing tune.
I can't remember what key it's in, so I'm going to fall.
No, I can't even remember how it properly goes, so it'll be perfect. Said you go around 7 years ago. Now you said that you were so tough. I loved it. Ooh, loved you for putting me down in a totally new way. Down where the bad old sad old days. Get away now. But now, too much pain for too little gain. I feel like I'm gonna drive back right now. Withdraw my lever of love. Gonna strive for the right to get into your heart. Yeah, withdraw my lever of love. Gonna strive for the right to get into your cold heart. Ain't gonna work for you no more. Ain't gonna work for you no more. I would have did it, but it's not this hard. You're so cold. The romance goes when the promises break. My mistake was to love you a little too much. Withdraw my lever of love. Gonna strike for the right to get into your heart. Withdraw my lever of love. Gonna strike for the right to get into your cold heart. Withdraw my lever of love. Gonna strike for the right, get into your heart, yeah. I can't stand it. I still want it. Never gonna need it. Anyway, yeah. Can't stand it. So I just don't want it. Ain't never gonna need it. Anyway, I want you. I don't need you. I don't need your tricks and treats. I don't need your administration, your bad determination. I've had enough of you. And some bad crew. Don't need you. I don't need your pseudo satisfaction, baby. Can't stand it. So I just don't want it. Ain't never gonna need it. Anyway, yeah. I can't stand it. I said I just don't want it. Don't need your pseudo satisfaction, baby. Withdraw my labor of love. Gonna strike for the right to get into your heart. Withdraw my labor of love. Gonna strike for the right to get into your cold heart. Withdraw my labor of love. Gonna strike for the right to get into your heart, baby. Withdraw my labor of love. Gonna strike for the right to get into your cold heart. Ain't gonna work for you no more.
Oh, what a track!
Amazing song.
Such a great, and he sings it. There's one of him. I think he did it at the proms or something, and he came and sang it live. And he is just.
Does he play in? I haven't seen them. Is he a musician and singer, or is he just? Oh, he's a bass player.
No, so you went. Is he a musician?
Is he a musician? Is he?
Too many of those, not enough those.
Yeah. Stalagmites, stalactites. You've got to have a system.
Rob said, you shape out on opinions yet. That's really, sorry, I would love to talk more about Uncle Pete's comment there, actually, but we should do...
it's about how our minds comprehend things and how the media shapes up. Yeah.
We should do a
chat one.
A chat thing, yeah.
Okay, we'll make, should we make our next... Oh, it's the Valentine's Day. Are we going to do a Valentine's Day one? Because we're... Nah, fuck it.
Yeah.
Oh, we are? Okay.
Just such a misery, guts. Yeah. It took billions of years of life.
What must it be like to be in a relationship with you, young man? Utter drivel.
It took billions of years for life to evolve from basically slime. That it could be billions of years in the future or past where other life could evolve to where we are now. So we may never know.
'Tis very true.
That's the thing. There's so much we know, but there's such an amazing amount that we don't.
Civilizations may have been gone.
Yeah.
They may be just forming.
And also, as well, when you know, again, when you look into archaeology, and it's so around what's seen as the
archaeology.
About how much. Like whatever the accepted thing is, anyone who comes out of the ordinary is, so for instance, some people said on the Sphinx there was signs of water erosion, and because it didn't fit in with the standard model, everyone poo-poos it. But again, like you've got experts in the field who are saying when you look at that can only occur from water erosion because of the way that water reacts on limestone, as opposed to if it was sand blowing, it has a different structure in the way it erodes. So yeah, everyone's got a different opinion about everything, and that's life. Right, do you want to do another song, or are we going to do the chat?
I think we'll save the chat for next week because we've
have we killed it?
I think we've pretty much done a hell of... No, I don't think we've talked too much, but I think if I chuck in the chat subject can wait till next week. Oh, no, because I'll keep it for another one.
Okay.
Or do you want to chuck it in now?
I don't give a...
Because it does tie in with what Uncle Pete said earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Fuck it. Okay, so for those of you who saw the advert for the stream or for the little image at the start, you will know that our subject tonight is cognitive bias.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Right, so set your premise out first.
Okay, no, I was hoping you would know about this. So I do have a little, if I find it, where is it? It's under news clips, I believe. So, I did find this. doing? So, cognitive biases. So you have confirmation bias, loss aversion, gambler's fallacy, availability cascade, framing effect, bandwagon effect, Dunning-Kruger effect. Now, I know of some of these.
Yeah, so some of these won't really... well, do they apply under cognitive biases? So basically, cognitive bias is exactly that. It's... so cognitive is anything, thought, how your mind works, and bias is where you have an allegiance or a leaning towards something. So in its rawest term, it means... So Dunning-Kruger effect we've mentioned loads of times on here. Basically, people that know very little about the subject, their opinion themselves is that they know a great deal about the subject. They believe that. So you know the chord G, C and D, and you go, oh, I can play guitar.
Yeah,
and,
I know everything there is to know about guitar.
Yeah, or not maybe everything to know, but that's what guitar's about. It's just that's that. And then the more you learn, you go, oh, well, wait a minute, there's a 7 in that, and then wait a minute, you've got a flat 5 there, and then you've got like a major 7. That would be there, wouldn't it? For instance, so that I play that.
Nice.
And you go, oh, right, that's just in one chord. Wait a minute, so there must be more in those other 2 chords that I've got. And you go, oh, right, so
the more doors that that your knowledge opens, you realise there's even more doors and more doors and more doors, and you just have very, very...
And then you go to Mordor.
Yeah. They're taking the hobbits to Isengard.
Are you going to run the clock, or should we just...
Nah, stop it.
Right.
Like we've ever paid attention to that clock.
So people that know little about a subject have an arrogance that they know far more than they do. People that know a lot about a subject have appreciation that they know very little about a subject, and there's so much more to know.
That's how I feel about life.
So... does that come under cognitive bias? Well, I suppose in the first part that you believe that you know more than you do, but and in the true sense of cognitive bias...
Because cognitive bias is a way of... the way they sort of described it, which I will absolutely murder, it's basically... It's a cognitive procedure in how you deal with information in life in a way that's productive to you. So, it was a way of sifting through information very quickly to pick out the relevant parts.
Yeah, so that's very often what people do. So, again, what I see as probably a better example of cognitive bias is that when people look through, say, newspaper, news feed or whatever, they'll pick up on the headlines that they already agree with.
Yeah.
That they already have... so again, if you've
is that different to confirmation bias?
No, so I'm describing confirmation bias, but cognitive bias and confirmation bias is very similar.
Right.
It's pretty much the same thing.
Okay.
As far as I'm aware, but then again, I don't know much about the subject. So, yeah, it would be a case of you already have a thought, and then you want to find things that are in line with it. And and so you would say that's kind of confirmation bias, really.
Okay.
You have cognitive dissonance.
Yes. So
I wasn't sure if that was probably more what you wanted to talk about, but
yeah. So cognitive bias is, as you say, it was as we've just described. So the difference between that and cognitive dissonance. So is that where you're given information, but you dismiss it because it doesn't fit with your narrative.
Doesn't fit with your narrative. So, for instance, there was one of my clients. He was really, really rich. He'd catch plane here, plane there, big engine cars, all these things, very elaborate lifestyle. And he had he didn't believe in global warming, and we were sitting at the table eating one time when we were having a debate about it. And he was going, it's all just nonsense. And I was saying, well, the scientific community, there's 99.9% of scientists that have been surveyed, and I could actually give him the surveys and where the stats were, and he replied that agreed that global warming is a thing. sufficient evidence to show that there is such a thing as global warming. And he was going, oh yeah, but these scientists, they get paid off to say whatever is, for the interested party. So I said, but then what are you basing your evidence on? Well, there's a scientist. So why is that
scientist different than all the others?
Different than the other.
Yeah.
So then you must have a cogent idea or argument why that would be the case. So let's hear it. And with cognitive dissonance, you can see. So what happens is when you ask a question like that and then they can't. So for instance, I said to him, Stephen Hawking, before he passed, he said the two biggest fears to mankind was global warming and AI. And I said, and he knows far more about these two subjects than I do. So I put my faith in what he has to say. I see that as, well, that's something to take note of. I don't have to believe it, or I don't have to put all my eggs in that basket, but I take note of that. If someone that reputable who has great knowledge in those areas says something, makes a big statement like that, I take notice of that. And with cognitive dissonance, what actually happens is when you have something that you can't explain, it actually physically manifests itself. So people start getting more kind of, well, so but and they
you can see they feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, it actually, but that's the thing about cognitive dissonance. It actually manifests itself as a physical symptom, which is really interesting. So when you're chatting with people,
is it because they kind of almost they get a bit fight and flighty? They feel like they're backed into a corner. Yeah.
So it creates a kind of schism in the brain, because the brain's going to access what it knows, and then it's faced with a reality that it doesn't have an explanation for. And as long as it's not an agitated argument, you're just talking very calmly, it creates like restless leg syndrome, it creates nervous tension in the body, and the body has to dissipate it. So what happens is the motor neuron system then starts to kick in, and it starts to cause irritability. So it's kind of so people start feeling like, I'm uncomfortable, I feel itchy or whatever, and they will start.
My second bumhole's playing up.
If you've got it, and so it will start to manifest itself in that way, which is really interesting.
That is really interesting. Rob says, I am biased that most modern music is a load of shite, but I also know bugger all about music. It's theory, so my opinion doesn't matter.
Well, no, everyone's opinion matters, but so something that we've spoken about a lot, I think it's always good to have humility that there's more to learn. If you go, I saw this, so therefore that's the be-all and end-all of it, that's great. And science certainly looks at things like that. Again, talking to that neurologist, the neuroscientist, last week, she was saying, so a good scientist always has to keep the open mind that there's a possibility of something that's still to be found or still to be proved. But there is, in the same way with music, there's that kind of what we call jazz snobbery, where a lot of musicians, especially who are into jazz, feel jazz is the pinnacle of music ability and music science, and nothing can come beyond that. There's also the same thing with science as well, where there are certain realms of scientists and people that believe they're going by the scientific method, that if something's doesn't seem likely, so that again there's a thing called Occam's razor, where people say that the simplest solution is the correct solution, but that's not actually what Occam's razor says.
Isn't it shaving away the excess to get to the...
So the solution with the least amount of assumptions is most likely to be the most accurate solution. So in other words, if you're going A equals 3, B equals 10, C equals question mark, and D equals question mark, and the answer is going to be 53, if you can go, right, well, that's one equation, the next equation is A equals 10, B equals 10, and that equals 20, you go, well, that's more like there's less assumptions there. I know those
I
things
see. Yeah.
are definite, therefore there's less assumptions. With the other one, where C and D are question marks, there's assumptions there, so there's room for error. So that's actually
it'd be
what
the
Occam's
equivalent
razor is.
of having, with the upturned cups with a ball under it. If you had two cups with a ball under it, then you had another situation where you had a ball.
Right, you're working in the right direction, but I think you're going to go left field. Carry on.
I was going to say that then there's like 100 cups. So Occam's razor would be, well, that kind of, because it's a much narrower field where literally it's a 50-50, you're more likely to...
So you could say that, or you could say if you had two white plastic cups and the ball's under one of them,
Yeah.
and then you've got two transparent cups and the ball's under one of them.
That's
More likely, because you're going to make an assumption with this, whereas with that you're going to make less of an assumption because you can see.
Right.
You're definite about those parts.
Is that why they say with science, it's, say for example, evolution, where you had like creationists were saying, oh, we don't believe in evolution, we believe this and that and the other, and they said scientists, they say you can't prove it for definite, and they say no, we can't, but we have millions upon millions of years of evidence pointing in that direction.
So Occam's razor would say there's less assumptions with that because we can prove certain parts of that theory, whereas the idea that we've only been here for 6,000 years, say, so I think the Jewish
I think
calendar
it's
is
about, they say 6,000
something,
years.
So we work by the Gregorian calendar, that's month, day, year, everything. And the other calendar is, I think, about 6,819 or something like that, around that. That is, and so with that belief is that there was humans around with dinosaurs, for instance. Sorry, there were humans around with dinosaurs, and there's no evidence, so that's an assumption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Understood. Right. Well, that's pretty much us out of time. So we'll quickly blast through one more. Just
What do you want to do?
first of all, I'm going to close this. So yeah, that was us chatting about cognitive bias and dissonance. So there. Right. Oh, it's done that weird thing again where it hasn't transferred back as it should. Hey ho. There we go. Bing. Right. Okay. To finish off, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to do a quick bit of Le Pendulum. That's the French version.
Something's tearing me down and down. Can't help
Are you ready out there?
In a trail of fire unknown, we will be free again. In the end, we will be one. In a trail of fire above, before you bury me. Set your sights for the sun.
If I took a longer breath. Hang on.
That was long enough.
Hang on. I'll go up again. Hold on. Okay, here we go. Bring it What a tune.
Such a great track, man.
I've never really heard much else of Pendulum. That'll do. That's all I need.
Yeah, that was the only
I
song.
look at that light behind us. Oh, I was gone. And it's dead. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It's been bloody good fun.
Yeah, thank you for joining in. Yeah.
And we will see you next Tuesday for... Are we doing Valentine's next Tuesday? Yeah, it's probably about... When's Valentine's Day?
I have no idea, dude.
Me neither. But I think it's somewhere near next week.
Yeah, it's
maybe.
the 4th now, so it'll be...
We're going to be 11th, aren't we, next week?
So it'll be before, yeah.
That's close enough. Right, Valentine's Day 1 next week. So we'll do loads of cheesy, shitty love songs and find some random facts about Valentine's Day again.
Are you doing anything nice for Carrie for Valentine's?
No. No.
You're such a miserable arsehole.
No. Hey, I pick her up when her motorbike breaks down. That's
My
real
job's
love.
done,
That's
yeah.
that is. Right, the amount of times I've got that girl out of a pickle. That's commitment.
Oh.
Very. Thank you, Lee.
Cheers, Lee.
Thank you, everyone. We will see you next time. So take care. Much love to you all.
Have a great week and be kind.
Indeed. And if you can't be kind, don't leave the house because we don't need you out there. Thank you. Bye.